Hi everyone, and welcome. My name is Doug Landreth of Photomorphis.com. And if you're familiar with my artwork or the website Photomorphis.com, you know that my work is pretty intensely composited and features a lot of rich texture as I try and create something that's more attuned to my personal vision or experience of a scene as opposed to a literal scene. Similar to this. This is a piece that I put together this past week from a scouting trip down in Astoria, Oregon for a workshop that we're going to be conducting for photographers at the end of March. We're gonna go out and do some shooting and then come back and do some post-processing work in both Photoshop and on one Perfect Photo Suite 8 and take images like this into images like this. I'd like to begin just by giving you a brief overview of the interface of On One's Perfect Photo Suite, and I'll showcase just a few of the areas that where you can use textures and how I use them in a brief introduction. Okay, so let's get started. On the left-hand panel in layers, if you have just a standalone Perfect Effects, you'll also have this layers, or if you have the whole suite, you'll see all these panels up here where you can bounce from one segment of the program to another. Let's start here in layers, and I have two files open, one the completed file and then the base image from that file right here. There's a tool in the most recent release of Perfect Photo Suite 8 that is wonderful for managing extras, and it's actually called the Extras Manager. You can access it by the File menu where it says Manage Extras. This is sort of the hub where you can import and modify or delete and add a lot of different content. If you are purchasing textures and want to import them into the program, you'll do that in this Extras Manager. Here you can see all the textures from the Photomorphis store that I have loaded in to the textures. There are also backgrounds and borders that you can look at and import, and there are also, under this Perfect Effects tab, presets. And let me take just a second to describe to you the difference between a preset and a texture file. Presets in Perfect Effects are pre-configured filter stacks that apply a certain look to your image. So they're really the mathematical processing formulas by which your image can be changed. And the program comes with a lot of presets available, and we have also created a section on our store where I have created presets as well. And you can import those presets here for use in Perfect Effects. Those are the mathematical formulas. Textures, on the other hand, are merely JPEG images. They are like any other image and can be used as a layer in a layered workflow, or now with Perfect Photo Suite 8, you can also use them in one of the filters in Perfect Effects and apply it as a filter from within the Texturizer filter, and I'll show you how to do that. This is really the foundation of where you're going to get started. Let me just give you a quick illustration of importing textures into your Photo Suite 8. With textures selected, you'd click on the Import dialog box, steer to your Downloads folder where you've downloaded some textures, and then merely, holding Shift-click down, select the textures that you want to import. These are in a folder called BlendKit Textures. When I say Open, it's going to ask me to choose a category. I can choose an existing category from within here that I've already created, or more appropriately, I think, create a new category. So I select the Add Category, and it does a really nice job of picking up the folder name that contained those textures and suggesting it as a category name. You can change it to something more specific that you'd like, or you can keep this category name so that you know where the textures came from. So I'm going to keep that and say yes, that's the category I want to select. It will then import those textures into a folder that stays with the program. Now it tells me that I successfully imported them. It shows me the thumbnails and the names of all the textures. And it tells me that the textures are available in Perfect Effects, and I talked about that briefly with the Texturizer filter, and in Perfect Layers, where we're at now. So I'm going to show you now where those reside. When you've imported textures, they import into a folder, a textures folder in user extras that become available to you through this extras tab. Now in the Perfect Layers, you're going to have a Files tab where you can actually go in and look at your image files from different shoots, or you can come over to the Extras tab, and this is how you access any extras that you've imported in the program. On one actually comes with some pre-configured borders and textures and backgrounds, and the ones that we just imported we're going to find here in Users Extras and in the Textures folder. If I swivel down this drop down arrow, we can now see the Blend Kit textures in here. There's two ways to look at these textures once I have them in Perfect Photo Suite 8. If I turn the reveal arrow down, it gives me a thumbnail of all the textures that were imported in that category. And you'll notice also this little icon that pops up, and if I click on this little icon, it becomes a browser window where I can see larger thumbnails of each of the textures, and then I can just click on back to go back here. So this is a really nice interface, and one of the things that I really like about it is that we have windows here where I can take a look at, let's see, I'm going to actually select the texture and show you how to load it. I'm going to go in here under the Photomorphis Artistic Selections textures, and I'm going to choose the texture that I used in the construction of this image, and it's the Artistic Selections number 37. Now, one of the things that I like about this interface is that I'm looking at the main image and all my textures that I can select from side by side, and so it gives me a real sense of it's a nice side-by-side comparison. I can take a look, and I kind of like the way that there's a little color gradient in here, and it's got some fine-toned textures. What I can do to add that as a layer in the layer stack here is just drag it and drop it. The plus arrow comes up, and it senses that I want to add it as a layer. And if one of these others is selected, you can add it as a copy, or you can edit the original, and it will open up in a new window. But I want to add this texture layer to this image, so I say add as a layer. And once I click OK, then it's going to add it as a layer on top of this image. These windows then you can drag close so that you can get a little bit bigger preview. And then you have all these tools on the left-hand side to work with the options for those tools up above, and layer opacity and blending modes on the left here. Blending modes are really one of the primary ways of working to blend textures into your image, and I'll demonstrate that in just a moment. But let's get this image sized to the texture image size to work with the background image. I'm going to click on this, which is the transform, and you can drag these, you can move this around to get it wherever you like it. You can squeeze it, you can compress it, you transform it however you like it, or you can use one of these things. I like to use this fill, and it just automatically expands to work with the canvas size. It fills the canvas with your image. You can click on apply, it completes the transformation, and then you can come over to your blending modes, and then you can select multiply. One of the things that I really like about the interface in Perfect Photo Suite 8 and layers, and the whole program, is that I don't have to select and commit to a mode to see the effect. As I just scroll down with my mouse, I can see the effect of each of the blend modes on this layer. And so I don't have to be an expert at understanding what the blend mode is doing. I just get to select what I like or what I think is going to work. And if I like this soft light, then I can change it to soft light. I can duplicate that layer, change that blend mode to something different. I can adjust the layer opacities for each of these. I can turn the layers on and off to see the effects and so forth. So you can do a whole lot with just bringing in textures, which are images, into your layer stack and then working to blend them. Now, one thing that I can show you is that there's a lot of ways to do some masking of textures. If I wanted to block the textures from a certain area of the image, I can do that either with this masking gradient, and this will give us different shapes. You know, it can blend so that the textures just blend in the bottom in a gradated form, and you can select how that gradient works. You can see that I can do this. I can turn the gradient so that it just affects the right or the left. I can reset that and then come in and I can say let's do a radial gradient with a feather of 70, and when I click on here it creates this radial gradient so that the image is clear on the inside. So what I'm doing right here is creating a mask for the texture, and I can change the opacity of the mask if I just want less texture in the middle or more on the outside. So without getting crazy, I just want to provide really an introductory thing. You can do a lot of different things with masking. You can actually paint on the mask this way to you know, further fine-tune the masking. You can see how that's working here, changing the feather and so forth. So you can get very sophisticated in your layer workflow by adding texture layers as image layers in Perfect Layers. Then there's Perfect Effects. And so let me get rid of these images and then just take this into Perfect Effects to show you the other way of adding textures. Perfect Effects works, and you can see when I switch over to Perfect Effects, the tabs on the left-hand side changed to Filters, Presets, and Favorites. Perfect Effects works by applying filters to manage different parts of your image. Let me just move this over here and click Fit, maybe just shrink it up just a touch. And there's a couple of different ways. What you actually end up doing is creating this filter stack of adjustments. In Photoshop we have adjustment layers and so forth. In Perfect Effects we have filter stacks, and the filter stacks work by combining different filters and using masking techniques again, and opacity and blend modes and so forth to create a specific look. Let me show you the Texturizer filter right off the bat, because down here in filter options, and I'm going to close the blending options for a second and the filter stack for a second so you can see this. So when I select a filter, these are all the different filters and filter effects that I can apply. Down here is the Texturizer filter. And because I have loaded in and imported textures into my extras folder within the program, I can come in under Category and select the Users category, and I can select any of these categories from the different categories that I have imported. So I'm going to come back to that Artistic Selections category. So once I select the category, then I can select one of the textures, and you can see it gives me the thumbnails. I'm going to select that same image, and it automatically applies it. It applies it with a couple of options, and you have different ways to manage how it applies this. There's a mode, subtle, normal, lighter, darker. And they really relate essentially to blend modes. It could be a mild multiply. This could be a mild screen. This could be soft light. This might be overlay. So these are pretty much kind of the blend modes that you can select. I'm going to select subtle. You can then adjust the saturation of the texture layer, you can adjust the brightness of the texture layer. So you have all these controls where you can actually manipulate the texture that's overlaying this. You can turn it, you can reverse it, you can flip it upside down, you can turn it back, reorient it this way. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. You can even scale it. If you want the texture a little larger, you just scale it up a little bit. If you want it real fine, you can just scale it down. So those are the filter options, but you also have blending options. So this layer, you can change the blend mode of this layer. You have all the filter options set, and then you can choose how that layer affects the other filters in the filter stack. So I can go here to overlay, maybe soft light, so I'm applying it in soft light again. And so that's just really a primer on how you can work with the Texturizer filter. Now, there's a lot more to using the filters. The filters, if you click on the Add button, you can add an additional filter. Let's just go ahead and select another filter like Glow, and immediately it enhances the image a little bit. Or I can add a pre-configured filter over here, or a pre-configured preset. What I'm doing right here by adding different filters is to create this particular look. I can save that look if I'd like to as a preset. I can go up here and say Save Preset, and then I can add it to a particular folder. It might be My Presets or Cool Presets or whatever you want to name it. But it keeps all your filter options and the layer stack, and you can apply it to your image. Let me get rid of everything that I've done so far and just show you how presets work. Perfect Photo Suite comes with some presets already built in, or you can, like I showed you with the Manage Extras dialog box, bring in some presets. So I might want to use, these are some presets that I'm developing for the workshop that I'm going to be having in Astoria, and this is one that I call Swamp Fog, kind of based on this image. And so you can see it immediately applies all these filters with all the filter options set, and you see what your image looks like with different presets. So you can actually click on each of the presets and see what that's going to do for the image. Once you select a preset, you can come in here to the filter stack and change up any of the filters. Now, if you have a preset that includes the Texturizer filter, if you click on that layer, it selects that layer and shows you that layer with the layers underneath it and turns off all the others on the top. And then you can come in here again and select a different category of texture that might work and set the options for that. So once you start with a preset, you can go in and customize the filters in that preset to give you something more akin to what you're looking for. So you can make all those adjustments. So that's really the brief synopsis of how to work with textures from within Perfect Photo Suite 8. We talked about the Texturizer filter and how you can use your imported textures from within this. Once you get to where you want to be in developing this image and hit apply from within Perfect Effects, it's going to apply all those filters to your original image and add it as a separate layer on Perfect Layers. And so what you end up with is now two layers, one with your base image and one with the layer that has your Perfect Effects. And then you can, you can continue to experiment. You can change the blend mode of this to something like this, soft light. You can adjust the opacities. You can duplicate the layer and amplify it up just a little bit. You can select multiply and come down here. So there's a lot of different things that you can do in both Perfect Layers and Perfect Effect. And when you get done, you'll end up with something pretty fun. And then you can save it. You can always do different iterations and save them as different files. So that's really the roadmap to working with textures from within Perfect Photo Suite 8. I hope you've gotten something from it, and I encourage you to really dig in and play with the sliders, play with the layer opacities, and just continue to explore the interface, because it's very, very powerful, and you'll be able to achieve some results that you really didn't even know that were possible. So have some fun with it, and thanks for joining me today. This is Doug Landreth at Photomorphis. See you again.